Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Now, today's first story is one you may have heard on other channels before, but now has a final update as well. So as always, timestamps are going to be down in the description and along the timeline below, so feel free to skip ahead if you want to, etc. This story is from Expensive Pangolin 60, who says, "Would I be the arsehole for calling off a wedding because my fiance is extremely frugal? I, 31 female, struggle with my fiance's 32 male frugalness. I'm not sure if I want to marry him anymore after a 3-year relationship. For a way, as my fiance follows my regular account. I met my fiance 3 years ago. He came out of an abusive marriage just 2 years before we met. One of her absolute abuses was financial. She bled him dry, made him buy expensive jewelry only to give it away or break it after an argument. Designer shoes, clothes, big house, cars, Caribbean trips, you name it, she made him pay for it. She also took him to the cleaners in the divorce. However, my fiance is very well off. He makes far over 6 figures, almost 7. On top of that, he inherited a few millions from his grandfather, and his parents gifted him and his siblings also a few cool millions. So yes, the financial abuse was bad, but he does not suffer financially. He has more money than he will ever need. So last year I moved into his house. I do not pay rent, but I split the bills and buy food. I pay for my own clothes and jewelry. I have a good job, and I can take care of myself. However, things have been taking a turn for the worse and I feel miserable. His house was empty when I moved in. He had hand-me-down furniture, maybe 3 forks and 2 knives. He wouldn't put on the heating so the house felt cold and moldy. There's no curtains, no decorations. His ex took everything not bolted down and he was too cheap to replace it. Just imagine a $1 million house like that. I'm grateful that I can live in his house. It's something I could never afford myself, but I didn't want to live in squalor. So I bought some kitchen supplies, some furniture, but at some point I realized I was dipping in my savings all the time and he did nothing. I looked into curtains, but buying those things are expensive. His house has so many windows, it is crazy. I didn't want to pay for this anymore. I told him I needed a fund to furnish his house. He blew up at me that I was with him for his money. I pointed out all the money I spend on his house, the gifts and the trips, because he pays for nothing ever. Because he wants to be sure I'm not here for the money. The fact is, if we break up, I have nothing. The house is not mine. If I spend all my savings on his house, I'll be left with absolutely nothing. He wants a prenup and I'm fine with that, but I can't help but feel used. Next to that, I'm jealous of his ex-wife. I feel like she got treated and I'm neglected. He proposed to his ex on a cruise with a $10,000 white gold diamond ring. I got the rhodium-plated Swarovski stuff that might cost like $100. The proposal was at a picnic in the park I organized, paid groceries for, and slaved in the kitchen for. I almost said no out of pure disappointment. However, I'm afraid to bring it up and to be called a gold digger. I don't want to be funding a millionaire's lifestyle. He loves everything as long as I pay for it. As soon as he has to pay for it, it's frivolous or unnecessary. I can live like a poor person by myself. At least the fact that there are literal millions lying around doesn't hang over me to bum me out, and I would just be paying for my own lifestyle. Would I be the arsehole for calling off the wedding purely for financial reasons? Because I love this man, but I imagine our cheap wedding in contrast to his ex and her extravaganza. Will our future kids be able to have some luxuries, or only if I pay for it? What if I ever become a stay-at-home mum? Will I have to beg to put the heating on? Edited to answer some questions I see a lot. I know the abuse is not made up. His family and friends told me separate stories of the abuse they witnessed. Not only did it confirm it, it showed me she was way more terrible than I thought, like stealing heirloom jewelry of his grandma with Alzheimer's right after she was widowed. Pretended she was gifted these things, even though everyone knew grandma hated her guts. I did not realize or see he is doing the same to me as she was to him, and he is subconsciously punishing me for what was done to him. I'm not trying to force a lifestyle in him where he was previously happy in. He told me prior to moving in that he left his house like this because he was depressed after his wife took everything, even the curtains. but it makes him sad and he wants a cozy home. He just didn't know where to start. His house is paid off, thanks to Granddad. He isn't actually spending much on utilities either. The house is very well isolated and has solar panels. It is weird to see how cheap being rich really is. I'm not asking for designer furniture, IKEA all the way, and I have refurbished secondhand furniture myself. I'm actually pretty thrifty. I see where my jealousy over the ex and her lifestyle might have triggered some people. Let me explain. A $10,000 ring is insane and stupid to me. I do not want that because I would fear for losing it every day. I don't need an over-the-top wedding. However, it almost feels like, for her, he did effort. Wanted to give her what made her happy, put effort and thought into it. With me, it almost feels like he wants to prove how little he can give me. He talked about how he would see the wedding and it is cheaper than my actual financially struggling cousin. He talked about how he would see the wedding and it is cheaper than my actually financially struggling cousin and her wedding. I can't help but feel he wants to demonstrate how cheap he can treat me. And I already feel embarrassed about the family I would have been to both. I feel like the discount wife. I don't like to say, but it feels like he gets off on it to some extent. We're almost talking washing paper plates at this moment. Yes, I did discuss selling the mansion. I really don't need and to move to a more modest house, especially knowing this is the house his ex picked. He doesn't want to do that. He loves this house, but I feel really intimidated living in a house I could never afford anyway, and so many large windows. Yeesh. I haven't talked to him yet, but pause on the marriage and counselling is a must. I'm already looking for counselling because I realised I might indeed be too much of a people pleaser, allowing him to control me with a ghost of his ex. I am going to separate for a while. I am looking to rent for a few months so I can get some space. Thank you for your insights. So Senior Day said to OP, they said not the arsehole, and says, "Say, I understand you've had some trauma in your past and I'm sorry you went through that, but I can't allow you to mistreat me because of it. It burns me up inside that you gave her everything, but I have to beg for the bare minimum. I deserve to feel cherished by my partner, as I have cherished you." Opie said, "Oof, that hit me right in the feels." Moth Girl replies saying, "I'm not with you because of the money you have, and if you can't trust that, then that's something you need to work on. I cannot live without heat, furniture, curtains, and basic decency just to prove to you that I'm not a financial abuser like your ex. It feels as if you're projecting that image onto me, and that is unfair." His way of coping is extremely unhealthy. What he should be doing is talking to a therapist about how he can communicate his needs to you, not shutting you out and behaving the complete opposite of how he did with his ex. He should set some healthy boundaries on how he spends his money. Sure, he also needs to acknowledge that you asking for some financial contribution to the house you live in isn't the same as his ex demanding he take her on a cruise. He needs to find some ways he can feel appreciated when he does spend money on things you benefit from, and he needs to trust that he is in full control of his money. He has no desire to take that from him. So 4 days later, OP came in with their update and said, "Okay, I hope this update makes sense because I'm very confused and not really doing that well at the moment. Well, Reddit, you changed my life. Thank you so much for all your ideas and insights. Honestly, I don't think I'd have had the courage to do what I did without you guys. I went to therapy, took the day off just to get my racing mind to calm down. Therapy has confirmed things you guys suspected. I am a people pleaser. I wanted to save him, and I have internalized the idea that any effort and every penny I want him to spend on me makes me a gold digger. I will have weekly sessions to work on me. I realized I would have never taken this treatment from any of my exes, even though I made more than them. The idea I had to prove myself worthy to be with a millionaire, not be in there for the money, got into my head pretty early. I called one of his siblings I'm pretty close with and just told her everything. She was not surprised, but just sad about how unhappy he was making me. She told me that from the day we started, he had this idea that I was out of his league. He struggled to understand why I wanted to be with him and probably just thought it must be my money. She told me she already talked to him in the past to treat me better. She was furious about the proposal. This information confused me a little. I was a little hurt she never discussed any of this before, but she thought it was none of her business. She also explained how she and her husband organized their finances. He also doesn't have as much as her. I took the opportunity to pack a bag. I haven't found a place yet, but I'm going to stay with my parents. I made up my mind that I will at least want 6 months apart to get myself in order. I made sure my stuff was in the car because I honestly have no idea how the conversation will go. So into the most difficult part, the talk. I waited for him to come home. It was pretty late, but I didn't want to sleep another night on this. Pretending I was fine while I was contemplating all this just ate me up. I'd written down what I wanted to say. I've never been so scared before. I didn't want to hurt him and I didn't know how he would react. I took some advice from here. I opened that I was moving out and that I wanted to pause our engagement. He was very quiet and just sat down. I told him he really hurt me by calling me a gold digger and that I'm done walking on eggshells and feeling guilty for just wanting basic things. I told him I was unhappy and felt neglected. I also told him that after 3 years of me showing up for him, if he still doesn't think I'm here for him, it is not going to happen. He was just quiet. He didn't say anything. I told him that the constant comparing to his ex was unhealthy and unfair. Punishing me for her sins was abusive. I told him comparing her to me all the time has triggered me comparing myself to her and started to feel like she was worth more than me. One of the things about her was mostly ungratefulness. He would do nice things for her, but it was never enough. The thing is, he doesn't do nice things for me, and I have to be grateful for the pleasure of picking up the bill. I told him he was not ready for marriage, that I dreaded having kids with him and live like this, that I didn't trust he would take care of me if I became a stay-at-home mum. And at that point, I just called him abusive and a user. I was getting pretty angry saying all this out loud, losing my composure and script a little bit. He remained quiet with almost no emotion on his face. I stayed quiet, but nothing came out, so I decided that I would just leave. Only when I got up, he said, "Please don't go." He asked me if I was pausing the wedding or calling it off. He wanted to know if it was over or if he still had a shot. I told him I wanted out of this house. I honestly don't want to live in his ex's palace of sadness anymore. I needed him to go to therapy, and especially financial therapy. I needed a separation. I told him I was open to couples counseling if he went into individual counseling. He begged me not to do the separation, but honestly, I really wanted it. I just told him to think about it, and I left him. He was finally showing some emotions. He was crying at this point. He sent me a very long text somewhere in the morning, told me that he was a wreck and couldn't sleep. He made all kinds of promises. He would go into therapy, sell his house, buy a smaller one, and make sure I'm taking care of whatever happens. He said he would help me decorate and we will make a home. He again asked me to please come home, but to me, it doesn't feel like home there anyway. I feel very empty and tired. I've been sleeping most of the day. I feel guilty, but also a little bit relieved, if that makes sense. I don't know if I actually want back if he does all that. I don't know, I'm a little unsteady right now. I need some time to process. I will go back for the kitchen supplies and my TV. I won't take anything else of the furniture. This for the exact same reason I was unwilling to buy everything. This house is huge, so the couch is huge. I can't take it. 1 month later, OP comes in with a second update and says, "Hi everyone. Let me just say I'm overwhelmed by the number of people really caring about me and asking for updates. Strangers who care about you. It's a feeling like no other. Thank you." So as I said, I left. I'm looking for an apartment I can afford. My parents are helping out. I'm living with them and saving up. I'm not closing all doors, but as for now, we are broken up. I have no contact. The first week, he transferred a large amount to my account. It really rubbed me the wrong way. It just showed that he still thought that money was what kept me here. I deducted the couch I had left and transferred everything back I asked for. And I asked for no contact after this. He's been respectful of it, and I feel free at the moment. I feel guilty for my needs, for wanting to be taken out every once in a while. The longer I am out, the harder I realize it was abuse. I have an autoimmunity problem and the cold house caused it to flare up. Even after that, he kept turning the heat down. He'd rather have me miserable than pay what? $100 extra in the end of the year. The last thing I heard is that he put the Palace of Sadness on the market. I've seen the ads and so happy he's going through with that. I heard from his sister that he's in therapy. I'm happy for that and I hope he keeps that up. He's keeping his promises so far, but I need to see real change. And even then, I really don't know. I'm building my own life by myself, thinking about getting a puppy. If I give him another shot, that's to start all from scratch. I want to start dating again and take it slow. Therapy is a really good idea. I now know I was just bringing this on myself as a people pleaser, savior, wanting this man to be happy so bad I forgot about myself. Never again. So that is all there is to say really. So girl with a dragon tattoo says best of luck. Please never forget your worth again, because others will shortchange you if so. Opie says true. I allowed this from day one and let him play his fantasy revenge on me. The red flags were there so early. Loving ourselves is the key to a happy life. Summer Flip says, my question is, did you previously communicate your feelings before just ending it? Did you wait until you stopped loving him? Opie says, I did. Multiple times. I had a few breakdowns where I told him I was unhappy, especially when my autoimmune disease just kicked into high gear. I told him I was done being cold. Then the discussion started about what is cold, and I had to negotiate a temperature setting he was okay with. It was still turning down behind my back. The curtains were just the last straw for me. He was giddy and happy about all the other changes I made to his home with my money. I thought it would not be so weird to ask him to pitch in, right? I'd done so much, sacrificed so much, and he still blew up at me. What kind of gold digger pays for everything for 3 years? If I was one, I was really bad at it. So yes, I communicated over and over and nothing changed. I'm pretty shocked he is actually doing something right now, but honestly, I think it's a little too late. I don't want to shut the door completely, but I will never be cold in my life ever again. So 3 months after, Opie comes in with another update and says thank you everyone for reaching out to me. I've closed in on a little apartment for myself. I got a puppy. After being in a home where I was truly loved, my parents realized how sad, cold and alone I've been. Over time I went blind for a lot of things. Blind to a comfortable home temperature, comfortable with thinking about every penny spent. Feeling guilty for buying that dress I wanted for so long that was finally on sale. Feeling entitled for wanting date nights. Being treated sometimes. I started to think about what makes me happy. I love to travel, dress up to go to a nice restaurant, throw dinner parties, entertain people, think about Christmas gifts 6 months in advance, have a cozy house, and I realized just how much he had taken from me with that one little sentence. Is that really necessary? Is anything ever? If you have a roof, food, bed, and a TV, you are there, right? Is travel necessary? Is having nice clothes necessary? Is a shower necessary? A haircut, a party, a hobby, a wedding? No. I know now that abusers are not per definition bad people. He is broken, and he has trauma, and I have no time and energy for. He got free from abuse and decided to become the abuser. I know he's in therapy and we initially agreed on 6 months no to low contact, but I felt I was certain it was not for me anymore and I didn't want to keep him dangling. Breaking up with him was very hard. It made me very sad. I never wanted to hurt him and I love this man very deeply. I wanted us to be each other's happy ever after. We both came from dark places and I wanted us to thrive together. His family told me I was the one. I was everything he was looking for. I felt so lucky. But we only have one life and he has so much work to do before he even becomes the bare minimum of what I needed. I feel failed, like my story has a bad ending. I feel very broken and sad. I will take my time to just be me. I hope he does the same. I truly hope he finds the one and becomes happy. Mostly I hope that for myself, but for now I'm happy enough by myself with the pupper. Thank you all for your time and support. I'm going to have a little cry in some fur baby's fluffy fur. Nola Cat says, this is so far from a bad ending. A bad ending would be staying until nothing was left of you. A bad ending would have been him bleeding you dry and you being stuck. You put yourself first and that will always be good. And to add to the positivity, this is probably the kick he needed to get past his trauma. Opie says, I think you're spot on. He said these things himself. He didn't know how bad he was until he came home to me leaving. He told me he hates himself for letting me walk and letting me be this miserable. He is in therapy, as far as I know, because I'm no contact, and I hope he does well. I really felt once I was out, how much of myself was lost. I went through quite a dark time realizing how far I went for this man, but I am getting better. Zesty Lemon says, it does feel like a sad ending. I get the sadness of knowing the magical ending wasn't going to happen, of the hope that he would see the light and make changes he needed in order to make you feel valued. At the end of the day, there's a happy ending as well. You have a puppy who loves you and he demonstrated through his anger that he still holds his values of stinginess higher than he holds you. So you don't have to wonder. This really feels like the ending of Inside Out, where a core memory comes in and it's a mix of joy and sadness. And sadness isn't bad. Sadness helps us remember what is important. You are important. I'm happy for you that you've been able to connect with the things that bring you joy and surrounded yourself with them. But please stay open. I know you have joked that you are fine being single forever. And if that is the course of your life, then that's all well and good. But being single doesn't mean lonely. As you truly know while you entertain in your apartment, guard yourself against becoming a version of your ex in the same way he became a version of his ex. Not that you would abuse others, but that you would abuse yourself by closing yourself off from people to keep yourself safe. You deserve that joy and all the happiness in the world. Opie says thank you. I'll be open to someone again, but only when it comes out of a place of, wow, this person is something else. Not interested in anything else. I know I ran past several red flags just because this man could give me the life I dreamed of. Married, nice house, some kids, a life with no worries. But he was not that man. He has sent me letters upon letters about how sorry he is, taking accountability. But I can't anymore. I just don't want to try again. I hope he does well for himself. He's in therapy and doing his best. I hope he is happy one day. I just don't want to be a part of it anymore. So yes, it is no Disney ending, but it is also not my ending. It is a real beginning. OK Act says, he's now taking accountability. Last time he was angry at you for not respecting what he can do with his money. Opie says yep, he's very sorry about that. He doesn't know why he reacted like that. He's ashamed about it. Money suddenly doesn't matter to him anymore. These are all things in his texts, letters and phone calls. But it has been a while since I've been in contact with him. Even if he changes a lot now, my question is, why couldn't he do that then? I got sick when I got sad and told him I was unhappy. Why can he only change when he is in pain because I left? That says it all. I really hope he finds himself and they will be happy in the future, but I don't want to be a part of it anymore. And 4 months from that update, Opie updates once again and says, I was in a financially abusive relationship with enough time passing now, I'm more comfortable with the word abuse. I fought it for a long time because he did not scream at me, hit me or call me names. He just used triangulation and the image of his abusive ex to use my own kindness against myself and to get me to fall into line. Spend my limited savings into furniture, luxuries and nights out for a goddamn multi-millionaire just to have some comfort in life. Constantly trying to prove I was no gold digger by having zero needs, living in a cold house and buy him everything he could ever want. I never lived an impoverished existence then, when I was with a person who actually had loads of money, more than I could possibly comprehend. When I left, I really struggled to keep at it. I was so scared to go at life by myself, to actually have to pinch pennies. He kept telling me what I wanted to hear for so long, went into therapy, begged me to come back. It digged into my resolve, made me doubt if I was making a mistake. A few things made me go on. One, my colleagues who are more friends than co-workers, who knew all my stories into details, hugged me and told me they were so proud of me for leaving. Their feeling was so authentic it rubbed off on me. I was also proud I left. I couldn't let them and me down by going back. 2, my boss once passed my office when I was working late and he said, never give men second chances. They never change. You deserve someone who gets it right from the start. I don't know what prompted him to say this to me, but it stuck with me. 3, my trainer who knows some stories said to me, you gave everything to get less than nothing back. It is like me getting $100 from you, and to repay you, I'll take another $100 from your wallet. Why would you want to take that deal again? He has a debt with you he can't repay. And I don't mean cash, I mean emotional energy, love and kindness. 4, I read somewhere, don't wake up in the same miserable place 10 years from now because you feared the change you have to make today. That hit me hard. I've bought my own apartment. I felt like a poor little mouse being surrounded by people who make my monthly wage in a few days. But the fact is, I have a very good job. I earn far above average. I'm able to have a nice place, nicely furnished, and I can even support a puppy. I live by myself but endlessly feel more warmth than in a relationship. I love myself way more. I'm not riddled with guilt over wanting to have a cozy house. Go out for dinner sometimes. I'm so happy I dragged myself out of this relationship. I kept at it and moved on. Keep going. One foot in front of the other. It is hard, but you can do this. I'm proud of you. And 4 months from that update, Opie comes in one more time and says, the money is gone. I'm not going to get that back or fight for it. I even had to block him because at some point he was petty and wanted me to pay rent for the time I lived with him, so no way I was opening that discussion. Whatever. Lesson learned. I may look poor compared to millionaires, but I'm doing fine. My sister and I did get along for a while. We share a hobby and talked about that, but recently I've been official and out in the open with my new boyfriend, and she struggles with this. Maybe she was hoping it would still work out or something, I don't know, but she has been a lot colder. This man, wow. People say never settle because there is better out there for you. I never believed it. Honestly, I was ready to be crazy dog lady for the rest of my life. I was enjoying being single. My friends urged me to start dating just to get the hang of it. He was my third date. I went against my will and 100% not into it, but when I saw him in real life, oh my god, sparks flew like never before. I'm in my 30s, so you would have thought, experienced it all. But this? Wow. He is everything my ex was not. He is kind and caring, cooks me dinner, gets flustered but is grateful for gifts he gets. He treats me to dinners, will not even allow me to go Dutch on it. He's planned and booked dates and trips months in advance, even before we were well and good official. Buys me gifts. He's not as wealthy as my ex, but he makes a good living. His income is comparable to mine and he treats me like a queen. And between me and you and all Redditors that dig deep into the comments, the love making is insane. I guess giving people give everywhere freely. So please take away to never settle. Ever. Trust the process, babe. And the last comment with a reply from OP, Condition Big says, I hope you told him off. After the abuse you suffered, he should shut his mouth. It says shit his mouth, but shut his mouth and be grateful you didn't sue him for emotional distress. OP says, too much energy to waste on a man who wasted so much already. I just never want to see him again. I hope he finds the help he needs and I hope he becomes a happy person, but I do not want to be anywhere near him. I'm so happy with my current boyfriend. I don't understand how I fought for so long to keep this man. Wow, and the personal growth in one story is absolutely amazing to see. But people were touching on in the comments about the ex coming back, you know, the millionaire asking her for the rent where she stayed there. Cheeky bloody so-and-so. Some people touching on the new boyfriend and maybe going slow, you know, because of the gifts and stuff that was being bought at the end. You know, it could be just an organic relationship there. Now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Yeah, man, I remember being so naive when life was good, weather and palm trees. Back in the day, you were everything I need. But then along came a time when you crushed my dreams. Oh yeah, you played me like a fool when you made me believe that the line between love wasn't thick enough to read. Oh yeah, you see we in despair, crime everywhere. You're selling false hope cause you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care. You just don't. Still selling false hope cause you just don't care. House, feel me.